Well, let's go further in depth now. And to do so, we're pleased to be joined via telephone by our good friend, public health policy expert Betsy McCaughey, the former Lieutenant Governor of New York. And Betsy, it is so good to have you back here on America's Forum. Thanks for your time.
Well, thank you. And of course, the Supreme Court will be considering the fundamental issue: can the president change the text of the law by himself? Does he have the power to replace Congress and govern alone? That's really the fundamental issue in this new Supreme Court case, because the text of the law says that subsidies can only be offered to make health plans look affordable in the state exchanges. But most states never set up an exchange. So most people who are signing up for Obamacare are doing it on the federal exchange, and the law doesn't permit subsidies to be offered on the federal exchange. So without those subsidies, the price of these so-called affordable plans will suddenly be 400% higher than they currently are. But let me make a little breaking news here, because what the president has done over this last weekend, and I'm not sure anyone really noticed, underscores the problem that the court will be dealing with: lawlessness. Over this Thanksgiving holiday, the president slipped into the Federal Register another 334 pages of changes he's making to the law. Some of them are regulatory changes, but some of them actually lawlessly change Obamacare itself. For example, changing the rules, the legal requirements for large employers. Another one, requiring that insurance companies cover out-of-network doctors as if they were in-network doctors for a period of time. That's not in the law. Requiring that people with high-risk pool insurance, it's now going to be considered minimum essential coverage. A lot of these are in the weeds, but they're actual changes to the law. And the High Court is going to be watching this, because it wasn't just one example of presidential lawlessness. The justices are seeing it again and again and again, and these changes slipped into the Federal Register while the rest of us were eating our turkey are just another example of the lack of transparency and the hubris involved here.
Well, Betsy, you are outlining, and this breaking news is something of great import we will continue to follow up on. I want to get back to the political equation. Our parent website, Newsmax.com, featured a story referencing an article from Sam Baker over at National Journal suggesting the left is actually helping the Supreme Court gut Obamacare. Your take on that?
I think that's sheer speculation. It is true, as Schumer said in his highly controversial speech last week at the National Press Club, that Obamacare was on the ballot in 2014 and Obamacare got trounced. And so it's obvious that Schumer, who's the spinmeister in charge of messaging for the Democratic Party, is going to want to distance the party as much as possible from Obamacare. And many Democrats in Congress who see their colleagues already politically dead on the battlefield because of Obamacare are not going to martyr themselves for Obamacare or for Obama. They're going to distance themselves. But I think the real issue here is not what happens in the court. I don't think the justices are going to listen to all these petty politicians. What's going to happen is that these Democrats in Congress are going to be very willing to step up and support bipartisan repeal of large chunks of this law.
Betsy, 15 seconds. What do you think is going to happen in Congress? Do you think there is actually going to be movement ahead of the Supreme Court ruling?
There's going to be movement on several fronts. Movement to repeal the bailout provision, movement to repeal the employer mandate, movement to repeal the Independent Payment Advisory Board that rations Medicare care for seniors.
Betsy, thanks very much. Appreciate you joining us here on America's Forum.
Betsy, as always, just what the doctor ordered. Yes, pun intended. Speaking of doctors, Dr. Gil Mobley next. Ebola is still in the news. The reasons why when we come back.